Welcome to the Boomer Woman's Podcast. I'm your host, Agnes Knowles. I've been mentioning off and on for the last while the fact that I'm on a mission to get more midlife women listening to podcasts. My guest today was carefully chosen to kickstart this mission. Ande Lyons has a ton of energy, is smart as a whip, and is an inspiration whether you're a listener or a podcaster wannabe. There are so many podcast subjects, formats, guests, you'll be amazed. And if you are podcast curious, Ande has great tips for getting started and just how easy and cost effective the startup is. If any thoughts strike a chord and you want more info, or if you have questions, reach out and I'll get you an answer or connect you with the person who can help. I love this episode. Listen now. Okay, listeners, I've been talking about this for several weeks now, so I'm excited to kick off my podcasting mission. You know how at the end of my episodes I put out the request for stars and reviews, I talk about the algorithm goddesses, and lately I've been commenting on the fact that I'm on a mission to get more boomers, midlifers, whatever you call yourselves, listening to podcasts. Well, today I have a repeat guest who last May discussed ageism, the fallacy of retirement, and has the tagline, "Pastures are for horses, not humans." Ande is and has been a podcast host, live stream host since 2012. Her current podcast is her sixth podcast, and she's the host of the New England Podcast Group. Seems to be she's the perfect person to kick off my mission. Ande Lyons, welcome back to the Boomer Woman's Podcast.
I am so delighted you invited me back. And hello, listeners. I'm so thrilled to be here and edutain you today.
Well, you have more energy than most other people I know, and your response to my call out was immediate and enthusiastic, so thank you for that. Let's just jump right in. You tell my listeners about your podcast.
Oh my gosh, don't be caged by your age, where we're shattering ageist beliefs, those internalized ageist beliefs that we tend to take on and we don't even know. And we're going to do that. And we talk about the ageist expectations and stereotypes that are out there. And we're like, oh, heck no, we're not going to let our age cage us. And so throughout the podcast, I'm talking to folks who are well into their 60s, 70s, and 80s and share how they are thriving after 65 and the real purpose behind it, Agnes, is because the World Health Organization came out in 2021 saying that retirement is an epidemic. It is costing societies billions. When I say societies, I mean the US, Canada, Australia, the UK, where they're telling people, hey, look it, we're done with you. You're getting up to 60 and we're done with you, but definitely 65. And I'm saying, along with a whole lot of other people, look, just because the clock strikes midnight on a milestone age doesn't mean you're headed out to the pasture, okay? You have more to bring into your last breath. And so let's use you up. Let's use everything that we've got up until we're done and handing off the torch to others.
Okay. Now, at the risk of sounding like I'm asking you which is your favorite child, just give us some examples of content or guests that you've had on that are just amazing.
Absolutely. I go across the realm. Now we've got the one gal showing off, Ginny McCall. She just earned the Guinness Book of World Records for the oldest female ninja warrior athlete at the age of 72. Now, my body could never do what her body's doing, even if I were 22. But she competes. You can find her actually on American Ninja Warrior. She is amazing. And so we have that end of the spectrum, right? To a private investigator who's in her mid 60s, who really can't see that well, can't walk that well. But boy, is she nailing it with her PI business. Okay. So, and we go everywhere in between. The 72-year-old who published a book, who went back to school at the age of 68 and earned her master's, to I just had Carrie on who was on the game show Press Your Luck, and she won almost $500,000 in prizes and cash. So we're talking about all sorts of folks, and so I don't necessarily have a favorite, but I really love the conversation. Coming up soon will be Raymond A. Jetson, who founded a platform just under 2 years ago called Aging While Black. And that's where we're talking about how aging for the Black population, there are different challenges, different roadblocks as they've had their whole life. And then another one of my favorites is Deborah Greenhut talking about caregiving and how to protect yourself if you're the caregiver. We're always talking about how we can be better caregivers. She's like, pull back the reins. We need you alive at the end of your caregiving stunts. And she tells us how to do that, how to use all the different agencies out there, how to find the help you need so you don't get burned out. I mean, just so many delicious conversations. And Mimi Donaldson, 76 years old, was a keynote speaker for decades until about 15 years ago. She found herself looking at her watch one time. She's in front of thousands of people and rave reviews, amazing. But she realized she was done talking to thousands. And now what lights her up is helping folks really nail their speeches. So TEDx talks, or those CEOs have to go up and receive awards and promote their businesses and stuff, making sure they have a speech that just lights their heart up. And so hearing this level of fulfillment in my guests is so wonderful.
I think what I should insist upon mentioning is that, like, your first two examples is like Ninja Warrior, woman who has vision and mobility difficulties, and just the fact that a guest has a great story, and in one way or another they can inspire us. And we all come down to genetics, though, too. Like you said, you couldn't be a ninja warrior at 22. Like, it's not that we're encouraging everybody to go out and be ninja warriors now. It's just like, no, get the message, not necessarily the vocation. So,
That's
yeah.
right. And podcasting is for everyone. The beauty of podcasting, which I realized early on in 2012, was, first of all, very inexpensive. So it's very inexpensive to set up your mic, to have. Nowadays, the tools are ridiculously easy. And as we age, we really need to use our brain. It's very clear that brain exercises, trying new things, are so good for us and keeps us nimble and keeps our memories working much longer. But it's just such a great way to have conversations with people, stay connected, even if you can't get out of your house, right? And so I just think it's such a wonderful medium to enter new industries. I hadn't been part of the pro aging industry. So one of the first things I did with my new podcast, Don't Be Caged by Your Age, was to start interviewing people who were experts in this industry of retirement, or really unretirement, and finding ways to keep our elders engaged and seen and celebrated. And then all the conversations around intergenerational relationships and connections and how important they are.
And I think you and I probably complement each other really well insofar as we both have like a real variety of topics. So I often say, is my listener going to be interested in every topic out there that I cover? No, probably not. But,
No.
If you're not interested in my topic this week, bounce on over to Andy's because she's got something for you over there, just having that variety. Now, we talk about midlife, aging, the fallacies,
Right.
like all that stuff. There's just so many, whether it's sexual health or travel or financial stuff. Like, there's just so much to talk about. But I shall start with you. Don't Be Caged by Your Age is your sixth podcast. Tell us about the other
Right.
podcasts you've hosted.
Well, thank you for asking. My first podcast was because I had a platform at the time called Bring Back Desire. And Bring Back Desire was to help long-term couples stay tuned in and turned on, and primarily focusing on the female to get understanding of what her body and those sexual desires looked like, because that's a conversation we would never have, right? And so Bring Back Desire was, well, how do we titillate that biggest sex organ, which is between our ears, the brain? And so I would have conversations with erotic writers, right? The romantic erotic writers, because a woman is turned on by how she feels, not what she sees. You know, men are completely different, as we know. And so we talk about that. We talk about ways of understanding the different body parts that we have and what are our erogenous zones. How do we get tuned in and turned on and out of our head and back into bed for a good time? And it was very bold to be doing that. But I knew myself, being in a long term relationship, raising kids, doing all the things, you know, what often could happen to couples is they became great parallel partners, but the intimacy would leave and then the relationship would start dissolving. So I'd also be talking to relationship experts, even pornography addiction experts, so that women could have those conversations with the men in their life who had become addicted to porn. So it was pretty bold. And I actually had a producer for my first year. I went once a week, and that really helped me get over the jitters. It really helped me get confident in this medium at a time when not many people were really podcasting, and especially women. And so once I got those 52 weeks under my tiara, I was able to then go off on my own. I went on Blog Talk Radio and other mediums, and I was using Google Plus at the time for the Hangouts and having a bunch of experts on. And what happened though was in 2014, I had been online now since 2011, 2010, and I was really tired of the horrible advice out there that I was seeing. And I said, I really need to step in. People were talking about horrible advice. What I mean is business advice. And I'm a very seasoned business owner. And I just couldn't stand what I was seeing. So I said, I've got to start a podcast now talking about how, business. And so I started off first with possibility partners. What are the possibilities out there? How do you partner with people? How do you talk about what you're doing, your service, whatever business you're in? And then that morphed into startup life. So from 2014 to 2016, 2017, 2018, it morphed into startup life. And that's when I entered the startup ecosystem. I became a mentor at accelerator programs. And then I got involved. I had co-hosted a monthly pitch event here in Boston for 3 years for startup founders, and just really got very heavily involved in that. And then COVID hit. And that's when I started another podcast called Startup Life Live. And I went live twice a week, interviewing diverse founders from around the world. And I did that for 3 years, 250 episodes. Go to my YouTube channel, Ande Lyons, and you'll see them there. And boy, that's when you really, once you get a good 50 of those under your tiara, you just become unflappable. You realize that it's just capturing that moment and having that conversation and going with the flow. And I would just download the audio and put it over to the podcast. And a couple of years into doing that, I had someone reach out to me and they said, "Hey, Ande, did you know that you're in the top 10 podcasts for startups?" I said, "Say what?" And I went and checked it out. And, first Reid Hoffman and then Guy Raz, which a lot of people know on NPR. And then there I am, number 10. I almost fell out of my chair. But those are the fun things that happen. But I knew it was time in the spring, late spring of 2023, to leave the startup ecosystem. But I had this curiosity podcast that I was very interested in trying out, called Your Ink Story. And I do not have tattoos, Agnes, but I've always been so curious about people when I see their body art, the tattoos, the ink. And I always ask them, would you be willing to tell me your ink story? And I would find such connection with what their stories were, because it all was the human journey: triumph, loss, beloved pet, addiction recovery, Norse gods, whatever, right? Tribal tattoos. There was always a reason and a story behind it. And I thought that would be fascinating. So in August of 2023, I launched Your Ink Story and interviewed people about
You didn't interview
tattoos. And
me.
some were, I know, I didn't. You have
Yeah, I
tattoos,
do. Yeah.
Agnes? Yes. From anybody with just like one or two simple ones, but yeah, one person, she had the ashes of her mother in the tattoo, which I didn't even know you could do. And from people who had it from their neck on, really even parts of their face all the way down in their body. And I was fascinated by that, but I didn't have like a good fit with my audience. It's not like I was hanging out at tattoo parlors and things like that. So I kept it to a 30 episode, but it was so much fun. And it gave me an opportunity to showcase what we have in common as humans versus what divides us. But I knew that Don't Be Caged by Your Age was on the back burner. So in March, I launched that, and it's a perfect fit. I'm 68. It suits my need to help people age out loud and proud instead of admitting I'm 68. It's like, hey,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
68. And so it's a much better fit for me. I'm having the time of my life. And frankly, after everything, all the things that I've done, I'm a 4 times founder. I've raised venture capital for a .com, 8 million in venture capital. I've raised over 100,000 and more for a food manufacturing business I scaled in less than 2 years nationally here in the US. So I really have a strong business background, but this is become like the joy of my life. And it's just an exciting
Yeah.
time.
I have people often say, well, how much money do you make? And I'm going like, you don't understand. I'm loving doing this. And
You can't put a
yeah,
price on this. And also, a lot of times, if you're open to how monetization can happen, I don't have a funnel. I don't have an email list. I'm not into bringing clients in, right? I am about having purpose when I get out of bed, having a vocation that I love and a profession that I love, and I'm helping the world. That's Ikigai right there. Ikigai. Look it up on the internet. It's a beautiful place and space to be. And who knows? Keep watching. I might, make some money this way or in another way. But as you said, Agnes, the fulfillment and the joy in my heart, ooh, baby.
well, even just waiting for you to come on here today, it's like I've got this big grin on my face. It's like, oh, good, it's Andy again, that sort of thing. Now, you were talking about your podcasts, and they there's nothing, I don't think, that ties each one together except you. When I was prepping to talk to you today, I actually did a search, and I want to explain to listeners that Andy and I discuss matters around midlife and aging. Fine.
Right.
But whatever your interests out there, you can find a podcast about it. I searched, what have I got? I've got it written down here. Search gardening podcasts, true crime podcasts, multiple sclerosis podcasts, knitting podcasts. They they're
Oh,
out whatever your
listen,
interest. There's a
you
podcast.
got to get off the TV
Okay,
first of
thank you.
all. And by the way, my sons, both of them, 29 and 26-year-old, this is what they do. This is how they get content. They listen to podcasts. And whether it's something informative or just fun, this is what they do. And our age group really hasn't learned yet how to tap into this incredible field of information that's fun. And you get the fancy schmancy podcasts. Like one of my new favorites is called History That Doesn't Suck. I think that's what it's called. I got to go look that up again. But basically, it's really fun history stories because history can be a little depressing. Yeah, and it's this history professor. I think he's out of Columbia University or something, and they've got all the bells and whistles. Meaning, they create a really great experience with all different audio. I mean, he's got a whole team. It's amazing. It's Professor Greg Jackson, but he goes into parts of history that are fun to hear about and fascinating. And who knew, right? My other favorite podcast was the one done with Dolly Parton. Oh my God. If you haven't listened to the wonderful podcast about Dolly Parton, I think it's a 7 series podcast. It is so much fun. So it can be a podcast about, someone you love. And I think it's called Dolly Parton's America. Definitely hop on Spotify and, wherever, maybe NPR. So good. And, you get in the car, you go for a drive or you go for a walk or you're folding laundry or maybe you're washing those windows, you can listen or you're just hanging out in the evening with a cup of tea. There you go.
I've got that exact same thing in my notes here that so many people I know are walkers, or they love to garden, or they complain about nothing to watch on TV. There's so many times. Now, I will admit I cannot listen while I'm driving. I tried that with audiobooks. I got somewhere and I went like, how did I get here? I was so involved in the story and I thought, okay, not a good thing. But some people, if you can listen to
Oh yeah, I'm
audiobooks.
I'm the person who like it keeps that part of my brain working so I can be in the present moment. I know that sounds weird. What I love to do is jigsaw
Oh, okay, yeah,
puzzles
yeah.
while I'm listening. Oh my gosh, it's just this double tickle for my brain. I get, there I am solving a problem that I can do in a very reasonable amount of time, which when you have your own business or you're doing things that you have no evidence of ever getting somewhere, a nice jigsaw puzzle has a nice beginning, middle, and an end. And then I'm listening, and whether it's a mystery, or whatever. And some people love the crime podcasts. And what's great about the true crime podcasts, this gets very exciting, is they use crowdsourcing to find the answer to solve the crime. Because as we know, when you get enough humans involved, and who are
Yeah, yeah.
curious, right? They start delving in and diving in. They keep adding to like, well, I researched this and I found that. I pulled on this thread, and it becomes this group effort to solve the crime. It's really very
I heard
exciting.
about a high school teacher that would get his class involved, and they did actually solve, like these high school students actually solved a couple of crimes.
That gives me
Yeah, yeah.
goosebumps, right? Now, of course, some crowd and crowdsourcing, for some listeners who don't know what that is, it's when you bring in a bunch of beautiful brains, right? A bunch of humans in who are focused on solving the same problem. And but everybody has a unique way of going about solving a problem, and they might break through in areas where other beautiful brains are not breaking through. So I think it's a lot of
And
fun.
that's actually becoming really common too amongst scientists.
Yeah,
If they just hit that brick wall, they just put it out
that's right.
to the crowds, and yeah, amazing things.
Well, and in our household at the Lions Den, we're always saying there's a YouTube video for that. I mean, a part in our dishwasher broke, got on, found it. The guy, showed how he fixed it. Same thing with gardening. It just, there's just so much content out there that's being created, and I also just love the independence of it. When I first, for example, because I love video, I'm more of a video podcaster. But when I first got to talk in front of a camera, remember when video cameras came out for us in the mid 80s? I think I was doing a video going around interviewing people for my parents' 40th anniversary. They didn't know what hit them, but I was like, reporter Andy here, right? And I thought, oh my God, this is what I'd really love to do. But what am I going to do? Go down to the local TV station? In 1986, I was too old, 30, but also where was I going to work? So it took another 30 years for technology to catch up so I could actually do this. And wow, what a that's the beauty of our technology today. Not only just our ability to listen to podcasts, and because podcasts are on a Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Good Pods, wherever you find them, they're not interrupted like video gets interrupted by some random ad that comes on. You have to stop and say, stop that. It's continuing, and it doesn't get interrupted because maybe you don't have great cell connection. You're still going to be fine listening to it. Or if MapQuest, if you are driving and Google Maps gets in and goes, take a right, the the podcast is put on pause while it gives you that information. So I think that's great. And then for folks, Agnes, who are thinking about podcasting, when I tell you 12 years later, the tools that are out there, oh my God, they make it like stupid easy to do, including Podpage. Can I talk about that?
Sure.
Like Podpage is this website that takes literally 10 minutes to set up. It's geared for podcasting. And once I like to use Buzzsprout for my hosting, but wherever you want to have your podcast hosted is fine. That's the place that creates what's called the RSS feed. So what you do is you create your audio like we are doing right now. Agnes and me, we're creating our audio. We save that off, and that's what we upload it to a platform that then shoots it out to all the places, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Spotify, etc. That's where you get what's called your RSS feed. And you don't need to know what that pesky word really means. It just means it's a link that will help you on a website that takes you 10 minutes to set everything up. You pick out what color, what kind of template you want. Boom. It takes and you can just shoot all your podcasts out to the world from there as well. And the tools for editing now, I mean, if you know how to create a document, whether it's on Google or Word or wherever, and you know how to cut and paste, that's how you do audio now on Descript. You just are listening away. And you're like, oh, that was a tangent Andy went on. Let's cut that out. You just highlight the paragraph or two or three, if it's me, and get rid of it. And it takes it out of the audio for you. It can take out all the ums and coughs and whatever. You just highlight and hit backspace. It's, again, stupid easy. So Descript is maybe $9 to $12 a month. The website is about $10-12 a month, and then Buzzsprout or any of the hosting platforms, depending how many hours you record, can be anywhere from $9 to $15 a month. So you can see how you can, for $50 a month, be all set with all your bells and whistles, and that can easily be covered by the Social Security check or whatever little budget you might have. And then who knows, you could get a sponsor for $50 and you'd be at break even.
There we go. So we're promoting both sides of the microphone here. This is great.
I know. Canva for all your free artwork. It's just, to me, listen, from what it was like 12 years ago. Oh, Lordy. And then it's up to you, the podcaster, to find out how you reach folks. So, and there's so many different ways. But to get back to the who's listening, what do you know, Agnes, about our population as far as tuning into podcasting?
Well, I was going to talk to you about that because I still, and this is why I'm on a mission, is I still get people who go, "What's a podcast?" And I just go like, seriously? Like, you name your interest. And I mean, there's so many platforms. And I found once I was on Apple Podcasts, like every platform picked me up. I'm everywhere. Actually, I had a friend that I'd lost touch with several years ago and still had my birthday in whatever the contact list. And it came up because I just had my 70th birthday. And I get this email from the website saying, "My partner and I were just talking about you, and so I Googled your name, and oh my God, you are everywhere." And it's because, like I got picked up by platforms that I didn't even know existed.
Well, and that brings me to the point that when I go to find somebody who's in my age group, I maybe have lost touch with or whatever, I'm shocked that they don't have at least a couple of pages.
Right.
Google, right? What? They've got maybe they're on LinkedIn and that's it. I mean, I can't even find them on Facebook. What's up with that? Yeah. Oh, Agnes, it's true. I love that. So did they say anything about, like,
well,
they found you because you were everywhere?
Well, yeah, because, I mean, especially with a name like Agnes Knowles, like, I mean, how many, with all respect to the Sue Smiths out there, there's a lot more Sue Smiths than there are Agnes Knowleses. So,
right.
It was pretty simple in that regard. But, yeah, I find that first of all, I talk about my guests. because I love my guests. But
Yeah.
I've got a walking group on a Saturday morning. I've got other friends that I see, and it's like, oh, I talked to this person this week, or the episode that went live this week is such and such. And, so I've got a few people now that used to say, "What's a podcast?" Who are now going like, "Oh, I've been like just last night." A friend of mine, she's on her way to Europe this morning. She said, "I've been watching some of your guests lately. When I get back from this vacation, I'm going to start listening to your episodes because you got some pretty cool
Oh,
guests on there." And then a couple of other friends who are, well, I won't say regular. I won't be quite that arrogant, but I know they listen because I get private messages. And of course, I wish,
yeah.
like, would you put that like on the reviews, please? But yeah, slowly but surely. But what's your experience? I mean, you've been involved a lot longer than me, but are people still going, what's a podcast? Or
I have I have not had that happen yet. I do see though that, and this has been going on probably since day one, is that when you tell people you have a podcast, they tend to hold you in a little higher
I think you're a
esteem.
genius, which we are.
And for,
Let's be
of
clear. Yeah.
course, look at what we're doing. And we're very brave too to be willing to record. And I know there are folks out there go, "Oh, I could never, I hate my voice. I could never record my voice." But
There's an app for
and that
that.
can be, yeah.
No, I have a
Uh,
I have a secret persona online, and that's exactly what I do. Is I just change this and this and this. Nobody, I mean, I use an avatar so nobody knows it's me, and then I change my voice so they will never figure out it's me.
oh, and folks, with AI, you can tell a topic to the AI thing, and it goes and writes it for you and then records it for you in whatever voice you want. And boy, have you done Microsoft's Notebook LN yet, or LM?
No.
Oh, go in there and pop in your podcast, your website URL for whatever it is for your podcast. It's a guy and a gal. Have you seen? And they start talking about your podcast as if they were actually really reviewing it. It's quite something. But again, there it is, a tool that makes it easier if you don't want to do your voice. But to get back to your question about who's listening, it's my understanding that those over the age of 60 are not tuning in. They're still using cable. They're still looking for the radio or the TV for their content. And I think it's a perfect time to just get them shifting more and understanding how do they search for podcasts. If you are starting a new business or a new service, and want to enter a new industry, it really, podcasting is the ideal way to get yourself known. You can only, I mean, who cares who listens? All right. You are going to get your name known and become an expert in your industry much faster because, as I said earlier, I started interviewing experts on retirement and aging and all the things. And then all of a sudden, I'm part of that community. I'm part of that circle of experts. And then you can get clients, you can get speaking engagements easier. Think if you want to get on a panel somewhere, write a book and get it out there. A lot of publishers won't even talk to you if you don't have a platform like a podcast or something to help get the word out about your book. So I just find it, and the big thing is that you might want to call somebody or you email somebody, would you be willing to chat with me about what you're doing? They'll never find the time for you, especially if it's a high caliber individual. But if you say you've got a podcast and you'd like to interview them and you make it very easy, you'll have questions ahead of time and keep it to 30 minutes, whatever, you are definitely going to get them on your podcast because they may, even if they may not want to, if they're la-di-da enough, their PR people will want them to be on the podcast. And so people respond faster knowing that you're a podcast host. That's a little inner secret among all of us. But as someone who loves podcasters, I set up a community, the New England podcast community, because I thought I need to build community at 68. There's a couple things at play. There's not the many ways to meet people, right, at our age. And we want intergenerational connections. We don't just want to be hanging out with the seniors our age. And also, we get fussier about who we're spending our time with because time is now our currency, right? It's our most important asset. We don't know how much time we have left. Who do we want to spend it with? And I find podcasters absolutely fascinating because they're talking about their passion. And I noticed that New England didn't have one. So I said, what the heck? I'm going to launch the New England Podcasters Group. Not because I'm a great community builder. Oh, no, I'm actually the opposite. I get very worried. I'm the person who says, what if I have a party and nobody shows up, right? But I thought, look, I want to meet people. I want to hold the space, bring people together. And boom, we just had our fourth meetup. We have a consistent about 15 to 20 people coming, and that's revolving because I meet every month so that people can come every other month, once a quarter, twice a year, whatever works, because they're driving from all over New England, right? Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and my home state, Massachusetts. So, wow. And we're all just sort of brainstorming. I always have a featured speaker who's sharing their gem, but we all add to it and ask questions and we network. I've got a place that hosts it for us, and then it actually is a state of the art TV studio and podcast studio. It's what we have here in America a lot is these local cable access stations that were very popular in the late 80s, 90s, and 00s. And they're looking for other ways. So, anyway, throwing that out. And I have a food sponsor that found me and said, let me just send you money for the food and just talk about us when you can. So, that's just so wonderful. And we've got a podcast that's called 40 Drinks, which is talking about that before and after you turn 40. Like, what was it like when you were approaching 40? And then what's it like after? We have a sustainable podcast. We have one that deals with family twists. And this is for folks who are adopted or who have used DNA to find out, who their folks are, all sorts of fascinating ones. We have, real men feel, and it's all conversations helping men, get closer to their emotions, and midlife and all the things. And wow, it's just fun to see them and talk to them and share. So podcasting is wonderful.
Well, and as you've been talking to, the one thing that we had head and shoulders above so many other people is COVID. We can't get out of the house, but like every few days or once a week or something, we're talking to somebody and we're having a great conversation and it's real time, like it may just be on the monitor, but it's like you're in Boston, I'm on the west coast of Canada, and here we are chatting away, so yeah, it was a real godsend.
Well, not only that, we're leveraging each other to get the word out and have more conversations with folks because others will tune in. They'll learn about Agnes. They'll learn about Andy. And they're like, wow, who are these people? Then they follow you wherever it's comfortable for them, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or LinkedIn. And now you're building your network, and your network is your net worth. No matter what, it doesn't have to be your financial net worth. It can be your net worth as far as who you're staying connected with. You are no longer invisible. And I don't care if you're just going to talk about mushrooms, or you might want to talk about some form of building something, or you might just want to be like my husband, the sidewalk critic, was walking by someone's house the other day. I didn't like how they did their door, just it could be something very simple. It's such a wonderful medium for both the listener and the person who's doing the podcasting.
Well, and I find too, not a lot, but often enough, I'll be talking to somebody, and afterwards, you sort of diffuse and the recorder's off and so chatting away. And I've had several people go like, oh my God, you would love this person I know. And I go like, okay, well, give them my name or give me theirs, whatever works for them. And suddenly I'm interviewing on a topic that it never had even crossed my radar. And I mean, those are kind of fun because It's like I admit right up front, okay, we are talking today about a subject I know nothing about, and I try to do enough research that I've got some reasonable questions, but it just gives them carte blanche to go off, and it's so much fun, and I'm learning so much. I mean, you talk about keeping on learning. It's just like, oh my goodness. I mean, just yesterday, I think, well, just recently, um, I had seen this. I belong to a platform that introduces podcasters and guests. So
Yeah.
this guest,
Is that Podmatch?
yes,
Yeah.
it came up. This fellow came up, and he guides women on whether to divorce or not. And I'm looking at this, and I go like, a man talking to women about divorce? Pass. And I don't think I did the actual pass, but it was like, well, maybe later. This comes up on my thing again months later, and I start looking into it, and I go like, okay, like get off your high horse, Agnes. Talk to this guy. Like even if you
He could be in
confront,
touch with his, some men are really in touch with their feminine side and they become very easy to talk to.
well, interestingly, the it just went live recently. This fellow was fascinating. First of all, because I said, okay, like, excuse me, you're a man and you're guiding women. And he goes, I get that all the time. He was totally open. He said, first of all, he said, I will talk to anybody. He said, but women are more willing to talk, whereas men are more guarded about their emotions and their reality, especially around
Yes.
something as, important as divorce. Then it turned out he had a system. So it's not like he's even coaching of, this and that. And he's had people come and say, well, my marriage counselor said I should do this. But by the time he walks them through, they go like, wait a minute, I can fix this. So it's not like you're always going to end up in divorce. And so it was like by the end, it's like, oh my God, this episode went over an hour because it was just so interesting and he was so smart. And it was like, seriously? So
And think about how fulfilling that is for him, for the man, because, our healthy Y chromosomes love to protect and provide. It really is a moral compass for them. And look what he gets to do. He
yeah.
gets to help women really think about the big picture and the nitty gritty details and protect and provide in a meaningful way. I love that. I'm going to go tune in right now.
But yeah, so it's just, as I say, it opens my eyes sometimes to the fact that life isn't always the way I describe it or the way
Right.
I see it. Like even when it's right there in
Right.
front of me, I saw it all wrong. And so it's just, yeah, it's so interesting that way.
Yeah. And no, yeah, we'll definitely have our limiting beliefs, or sometimes we'll think someone's going to be amazing. Right. I had a guest that I actually even had a pre call with her just because we were going to talk about something different. And I thought, oh, this is going to be great. And I'm halfway through, I thought, you know what? This is never going to happen. I'm going to have to go on ChatGPT and how to say nicely, I won't be using your episode. These are some of the things that can happen when you are a host and you have to let someone down nicely and kindly. But no. And, and this is what's important, Agnes, and you and I talk about this in many different ways, which is you have to be worthy of your listeners' time. So you do want to make sure that you're bringing content that listeners want to hear. And you want to keep the conversation moving in a way that they don't get off going, oh, geez, I'll never get that time back again.
Well, and one thing I've done on my website, theboomwiththebang.com, is under the tab for podcasts, I've got a drop down, and I think it's called like age-related resources or something. But when you go
Yeah.
to that page, what I've done, because this is my 4th year of interviewing guests, I've got a lot of interviews out there. But if somebody comes up now with, they don't want to scroll through 250 episodes.
No, they
So
want to get right to the topic.
yeah, so if you've got a topic, now I will admit there's a fair number under food for thought because like sometimes you just don't know where to put an interview, although sometimes they're in different groups. But if you're interested in travel, you click there and you see which guests and what they've talked about. If you want sex and intimacy, Those are the interviews, health,
That's so
financials,
good.
whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just so much fun. But
Oh, that's good that you've categorized. Outstanding, outstanding.
well, and
That makes it so much
I've only
easier.
gone back, I think, 2 years because, as
Mm-hmm.
you well know, like I was doing research and I'm going like, oh, they were a really good interview, but they're not doing that anymore. So, like
Right.
it's like you got to be careful that way, I guess.
Good point. Or they're no longer with us.
Yeah, well, that's happening too, isn't it?
I know. Oh my gosh.
Let me go through my notes, see what else we need to talk about, or I wanted to talk about. Um, so I'm so glad you've been touching on like all the different subjects of podcasts because there's so much out there. Okay, tell us what you listen to. So you've said the history one.
Right. I listened to that. I also really like We Can Do Hard Things with Glennon Doyle, her
Okay.
sister Amanda, and her wife. Oh my gosh, her name just went right out of my head. I
And
can
I've just
see
packed
her,
my.
this famous soccer player. Listeners, you know who I'm talking about. Abby. And so the three of them, they have interesting guests. It's really, life enhancing conversations. Not all of them are for me because, menopause is over. Here's the scoop, and that this is mythology. People think that you're in menopause. No, you're either premenopause or you're postmenopause. I'm postmenopause and I'm doing fine, so I don't want to listen to those. And I'm done raising kids, so I'm not interested in those. But there's some other topics that are great. And then I will just get random, sometimes just get in there. And I love listening to the folks that I know, whose podcasts I'm interested in. And, but right now, I'll be honest with you, given the current conditions in America, I am definitely on a lot of listening to a lot of political podcasts. Politics Gal is my go to for staying tuned in on what we're doing to save democracy here in the US.
I'll share, I think, my all-time favorite. And I've interviewed her on podcast. It's called A Breath of Fresh Air with Sandy Kay. She interviewed. I love music. It's been just a part of my heart and my soul for as long as I can remember. And she interviews musicians, anybody related to the music industry from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So,
Wonderful.
I'll go like, oh my God, Grand Funk Railroad. Okay, I'm going to listen to that one. But then, I get doing something and I just automatically click into the next one. And I go like, oh, I don't know who that is. And the next thing I know, I'm singing along with the songs. I just didn't know the name. So it's just been, I love it.
Oh
So,
my God. And that's a breath of fresh
yeah,
air?
yeah. And
Oh, I'm going to add that.
well, and on my birthday, I had somebody on Facebook just private message me. And it was one of those things like, we've been friends for a long time, but I can't remember how or why. Um, but he had his guitar and he played me this little song. So I went like, okay, well, that's kind of fun. Thank you for that. So, but I did go over to his profile, and I mean, he is so into music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So I messaged him back and said like, okay, thank you for that. That was lovely. You might be interested in this podcast. Well, like literally within 2 hours, there was a message back going, oh my God, this is completely up my alley. So,
It's so
yeah,
good.
yeah. So,
There's a there's one we listen to sometimes because my husband is a superior word
uh-oh.
person. It's like a walking
Okay, share
dictionary.
this one with me. I love this.
I can't. It's a show that focuses on words. Let me just go. I got to go look it up. Podcast about words. Because yeah, I think it's a way with words. And so, nope, not that one. Oh, darn it. I cannot remember one right now. But what happens is listeners will call in and say, geez, I grew up with this word or this saying, right?
Oh, okay.
And, and they'll be like, how did that happen? And they go into the history of where that word came from
I listen to
and
talk radio,
phrases and
and there's one segment, I think, once a week, and it's like I stop everything and I listen to it. Dear.
and so I can't remember right now, but it's on my favorites, so I don't have to remember, right? So it's like we used to know our phone numbers by heart of all our favorite people, but now they're in our
Yeah,
contact on our smartphones. And how many of us are really
yeah,
remembering, right?
yeah. Have to think about remembering my own sometimes. Okay, so here's my theory. Um, Between the two of us, if we have, say, a number out of the blue, a couple of hundred regular listeners, and each week they shared an episode with a friend, a
Ooh,
lot more people would catch
yes,
on.
yes.
And if they even just said, "Oh, I listened to this podcast." So before we wrap, give our listeners today your very best sales pitch on listening to podcasts and sharing episodes.
Well, I think like anything, when you go to a great movie, you're like, oh gosh, I loved that movie, or you saw it on Netflix, whatever, or you tried a new restaurant, or you found a new coffee shop, or something that just lights you up. You know, you love sharing that. And sharing is caring. And so when you listen to a podcast, you listen to an episode that was meaningful to you, please just grab the link. You can just in the top right hand corner of whatever you're listening to is going to be a way to grab that link, and you can see that little share uh, that's not so much a button, but it's the two lines going out to share the icon. Hit that and then send it by text to someone, because 75% of the time we're on our phones, and they can go and easily pop it up into their phone and listen to. And at which point they're starting to say, oh, this is what listening to a podcast is like. So I would encourage anybody to listen to episode 29 with Mimi Donaldson on Don't Be Caged by Your Age. Mimi is laugh out loud funny, delightful. She's been entertaining people her whole life. She will entertain you, and try sharing that with someone, especially someone who's a teacher, someone who loves to speak or loves to listen to TEDx talks, or someone who just is wants to be delighted. Mimi will do that for you. And it's a wonderful conversation.
Well, here's another idea I have, which I think is
Okay.
pure genius.
Oh,
Is
I don't doubt that at all. I'm getting my clappers out. Here we
there
go.
you go. But I mean, how many people do you know that belong to walking groups? And we see them out and about all the
Right.
time. So if
Right.
each person in the walking group listened to a different podcast, and then afterwards, when you get together for coffee, it would be more interesting conversation than like a book club discussion.
Oh, 100%. First of all, the time commitment, 30 minutes, maybe an
Yeah,
hour,
yeah.
right? So that's doable versus I've got to read that whole book. And a lot of folks just are not readers. Their brains don't work that way. So audio is a wonderful. And again, you're going to pull out the highlights of that 30 to 40-minute podcast. Most podcast folks are usually that 40-minute mark. You can do that.
Well,
40 minutes is getting you, depending how fast you walk, on your Fitbit or on your treadmill or on the street, that's going to get you a good 3 to 5 miles. So now you can't walk and read. So now you're moving your body, which is so important, especially after the age of 60, to keep your brain and body and balance really working and everything in your body working properly. But now you're listening at the same. I think that forget about these book groups. You are a genius. It is a podcast group. That's it. We're done. Writers, sorry. Authors. Create a podcast for each of your chapters. That's all I'm saying.
right. Now that's the one thing I didn't touch on that I did want to touch on, and you have said it, but I want to bring attention to it. Is I just finished saying that I'm in my fourth year of interviewing people, but there are podcasts out there. If you've got a specific interest, like you talked about Dolly Parton, 7 or 8 episodes, boom, you're done.
Right.
So it's not like you've got to tune in and, oh, am I supposed to tune in next week as well? Yeah, if you want to, and if you got it on your phone, it's going to just get downloaded anyways. You get a little thing up saying new episode. But if you just have this interest about like one specific crime, then you can listen to the 4 episodes or whatever it is. But it's a finite commitment.
Yeah.
So that's yeah, that's good.
That's so important. And I was just thinking about a podcast I heard about the other day. I cannot remember. And by the way, folks, there's podcasts that you can listen to with your grandchildren if that are phenomenal. Kids are listening to podcasts all the time. It's story time. There's one that's only 5 minutes every day, which is an uplifting, positive one for kids. So, and no, I don't. I can't think of the name right now. But there's just so many different mediums out there or topics that podcasts are diving into, and you're going to get that. Like, for example, Mildred J. Mills has a podcast called My Cotton Patch Moment. Now, first of all, she has a voice you want to listen to all day long. She is the 72-year-old author I was telling you about, and she tells stories, and it's called My Cotton Patch Moment because it was stories about what really helped her get out of the Deep South, one of 17 children, picking cotton with her grandmother growing up. How did she get out? So she tells wonderful stories. It's usually 10 to 15 minutes long. And you always feel so uplifted when you're done from listening to her voice, but the thought provoking conversation that she's having. So, not everybody's into the interview style like you and I are into. They actually have the ability to keep you captured and captivated for 10 to 15 minutes with some really nice, thought provoking, uplifting. Wow, life is pretty good, isn't it? Thoughts.
And life is pretty good, isn't it? What a perfect way to sort of start to wrap this. Okay, so you're probably on every platform out there. Don't
Yes,
be
I am.
caged by your age with Ande Lyons, Ande.
Yes, I am. And TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Pinterest,
Oh, you're
Facebook,
so much better than me.
Threads.
Okay, so website link for sure is going to be in the show notes. All the links for your stuff, all your stuff is on your
All my
all your
stuff.
stuff is on your page at our website.
And if you're in the New England area, please come join us. If you're podcast curious, this is a very welcoming group. We'd love to help you. We have helped several folks already launch their podcast, and they are so happy.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing that here on Vancouver Island, or at least South
Yeah.
Island. So, yeah, just one more thing to fit into the day. Okay, listeners, the ball is in your court. I'd love to see some comments about my chat with Ande today. But more important than that, go check out Ande's show or shows, and then share this episode or any episode with a friend and talk about any show you've listened to lately while you're walking with a friend. Okay, stars and reviews. Just do it. And
it's so easy. And Spotify, you just have to smash those 5 stars. And you can leave a comment now on Spotify, everyone.
Yeah, it's so easy. Quick reminder about buying me a coffee or following on Substack. Those links are in the show notes too. Ande Lyons, thank you for joining me today and talking podcasts. We'll get them mainstream for those mid-agers yet.
Yes, we will. And Agnes, you got to do a live with me on Substack.
Ooh.
Are you up for that?
Sure.
Stay tuned, listeners.
Dear, the advantage of pre-talking, I get to edit. That's okay. I can talk about anything, anytime, anywhere, anyhow.
I know you can. I know you
now I'm
can. You're
grimacing.
beautiful and delicious about that.
You have a great rest of week.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Agnes.